That was like, I think,
That is a
sophomore
good
year
book.
also. Yeah, that was an amazing book. I really, you know what I love too is learning about the Canterbury Tales.
I've never read that.
Oh my god, dude, you would love the Canterbury Tales.
Why?
It's basically it's really it's basically like a like an anthology of really fucked up medieval tales written in poetic form, but you can probably find it in written in just like a regular book form. And like all the tales are like, you know, they're like it's like Aesop's fables and shit if it was written to be like Grand Theft Auto.
That's hilarious.
Dude, it's
That's
amazing.
cool.
It's so fucking awesome. Like the one that I remember a lot was this tale about these three guys that stumble upon treasure, like these three thieves. It's basically the Green Knight. If you remember the Green Knight, that was like the Green Knight feels like a Canterbury Tales like movie come to life.
It's like an old myth or tale, but not so old.
Yeah, but with like a lot of like heavy shit like death and like really crazy stuff. So like with the Canterbury Tales, have you ever seen the movie A Knight's Tale with Paul Bettany? It was like one of his first movies like of all time. It was in I think either the early 2000s or late 90s.
It sounds familiar.
It starts the
I like Paul
famous
Bettany.
yeah, Paul Bettany's good. So the famous thing with this movie is it's a medieval movie and it's I think it's about jousting, but it starts with "We Will Rock You." We will rock you. Like that's how the movie starts is with that song, and it's really fucking crazy. But that movie, A Knight's Tale, it's one of the only movies that's actually ever been like made based on any of the Canterbury Tales. It's like it's at least like one of the only mainstream movies that's ever been made. But there's so many good like little tales in there. There's this one. This is what I was gonna say. It's about these three guys that stumble upon this like this old treasure, and what it is the all of these guys basically they all agree not to like rip each other off, but they all like within like the story end up betraying each other in like really seedy fucked up ways, and it like gets down to the point where I think they all die if I'm not mistaken because they end up like not like agreeing with the treasure. And honestly, in hindsight, this is a tale as old as time, but it's like it's so good. It's just like, you know, the Canterbury Tales. I want to watch that movie now again, A Knight's Tale. Paul, that would be a good one. That should be on the list of movies that we do like a commentary on. Um is A Knight's Tale, They Live. We should add The Abyss into that too for The Man from Kentucky.
Yeah.
I honestly love the Canterbury Tales, dude. Like it's like one of those like King Arthur, but like more like poetic. Of you know Washington Irving, the Headless Horseman, where he's got a pumpkin head and shit. And then there's the other book, Rip Van Winkle, where he falls asleep for 30 years and he wakes up and like it was pre-revolution and then it's post-revolution.
Rip Van Winkle? Isn't that the guy from isn't that the Fonz?
That's Henry Winkler. That's close though. That would be a great dude. You just like came up with a Robot Chicken sketch. You take Henry Winkler and he falls asleep during Happy Days and he wakes up and all of the Happy Days cast are all in the future. That would make a perfect Robot Chicken sketch.
Are you thinking of Rumpelstiltskin?
No, you've never heard of Rip Van Winkle? This is a serious question.
Are you talking about Bullwinkle?
No. Like Rocky and Bullwinkle? Do you know who Rip Van Winkle is though? Seriously.
No, I've only ever heard of it.
So Rip Van Winkle was this dude that I forgot where exactly, but he like went to sleep under a tree randomly in America in like the mid 1700s. And what ended up happening is he falls asleep and he wakes up and it's like 30 years later or something like that. The revolution has happened and everything's changed in America. It's like post-revolution. He's like he goes into town expecting to see like the people that he knew, and it's like all different people. He goes into like the local tavern, and he's expecting like a portrait of King George like up on the wall, and then he mentions something about it, and it's George Washington, and people like ostracize him and are like, "Oh, get the fuck out of here, red coat!" And he's just like, "What the fuck are you guys talking about? Like red coats? Like what is all this?" So he like starts wandering around. Like this is the first like one of the first like cryogenic stories is what this technically was. So like Rip Van Winkle, like I think he finds his kid or like a relative or something like that, and they end up saying that like he went missing after like going for a walk like all those years ago. And it's just a wild story, and I forgot if it like ends up being like entirely like a dream or if he really like is in the future afterwards like he's stuck. But it was a really good story. It's written by the exact same guy that wrote Sleepy Hollow, the Headless Horseman.
That's awesome.
Which, have you ever seen that movie with Johnny Depp, dude?
No.
It was a
Yes.
Tim Burton.
Why am I saying that? Yes, I have.
Yes, it's so fucking good.
I love that movie.
It was one of my favorite movies as a kid. I haven't seen it in like 20 years. I would love to watch that movie. I remember it being so like dark and disturbing, but at the same time being like kind of kid friendly at the same time.
It has so much payoff, I think, and it by the end of the movie, you're just like, this movie's fucking badass.
Spoiler alert, how does it end? I forgot. Like I said, I haven't seen this movie in like a long time, but I love this movie.
The Headless Horseman is essentially being controlled by an evil witch in town, and you don't really know she's an evil witch.
Yes. Dude, I used to love the atmosphere of that fucking movie. It was so creepy. It was so Tim Burton. Yeah, dude. Oh my god.
The fucking remember the tortured childhood he had?
Wasn't he like a sick boy or some shit? Was that it?
Don't remember, but I remember him having like
like visions or
wasn't
some
he, like,
shit.
closed in an Iron Maiden at one point or something like that.
Was he? He was. Didn't the movie start off with like he's like on trial or something like that, and they're like, we're sending you down to such and such, and then dude, I forget the fuck out of this movie so much.
Time to watch it again.
Yeah, dude, I used to love it. Like just the ambiance of it. Like I usually don't even like Tim Burton movies like that, and anybody that listens to this is gonna probably hate me because they probably love Tim Burton shit. But like I was never into Tim Burton shit like that. But Sleepy Hollow is a movie that I watched like growing up like all the fucking time. And 13 Ghosts. That movie was fucking epic. Dude, Matthew Lillard is the fucking man. You gotta love Shaggy. I would love
Honestly,
to
I think these chips are making me cough.
What are they?
Spices on them.
Oh, probably. Blazing Buffalo?
Because I was coughing before I started smoking.
Well, even handling the herbs can make you like start coughing too.
Yeah. So if I took a couple deep breaths of it,
yeah, that'll do it. That'll cause the alkaloids to like, yeah. Oh. You're basically huffing it at that point. So there's a thing like I told you about this when I have in my pillow like a bag of tea that I have specifically in there because they say that you should put it in your pillow because overnight you'll huff it and it'll influence your dreams overnight. So that's like a thing I do.
That's something I gotta do too.
I mean, you don't have to. If you're
that's what like I got as in like I want to. Like I gotta do that.
If you're smoking it though, I mean that'll accomplish pretty much the same thing. Yeah. You'll get sucked into the dream realm.
I saw a website that said you could smoke wormwood, just not often.
Yeah, I wouldn't do it. It's wood. It's twigs. It's sticks. I wouldn't go telling you. I wouldn't tell you to go smoking the stems and the seeds. You know.
That's fair.
You want to talk about famous UFO sightings?
Yeah.
All right. Here's a quick list of famous UFO sightings. UFOs, Foo Fighters, ghost rockets. I've never heard them called that. Whatever you call them.
Ghost rockets. Oh, I just want to say,
Yeah.
because I'm not even sure if I really did see it. But I think I might have seen. I didn't even want to call it a shooting star because it's not like what a shooting star looked like to me before.
Did you wish upon a shooting star?
No, I didn't.
Then your dreams won't take you very far.
Damn. I was just staring at the sky the whole time I was outside. And then like
Mhm.
toward when I was almost about to go inside, I just look up. I saw like a small what looked like a star like flying across that distance,
Mhm.
but not leaving a trail.
So maybe it was a UFO just streaking across, or it
That's
could have been a shooting star.
yeah, that's what that's what I'm saying. Like I don't know what it was. It
Yeah,
reminded me of a shooting star, but I've seen a shooting star before.
me too. You know what's weird? I feel like they're always when you don't expect them.
I like to go to this fort that's nearby, and on the fort is like a thing that you can stand on and get a good view.
Mhm.
And I went up on that thing, and I like sat down. And I had like I forgot if I had like a snack or something. I don't know. I had like water or something. I don't remember, but I just like at one point I think I was definitely smoking, and I like leaned back and I like essentially like leaned back to the point where I'm laying back from a sit
Mhm.
position, and as soon as I look straight up, I just see a little like the distance of like that in my vision up in the sky. I just see like, and it leaves like a small trail behind it. It was like,
Yeah, yeah,
that's
like a
it.
streak.
But not that big, not like
Mhm.
that, like fucking that, like the tiniest little,
Yeah,
like,
it's
tiny
pretty.
little thing
It's
that I
cool to
see.
see.
This thing though was like really far, like this
Mhm.
distance. Think about the difference in distance, and also think about how it looked and the speed it was going. It seemed like the same speed, but no trail
Yeah.
and a bigger distance.
So that could have been anything. That could have been meteorite, or that could have been a
Could have
UFO.
been anything.
Yeah. Hmm.
It's
All
scary to
right.
think that there's things like that just flying. It's scarier that it's not an alien because it's just like those are massive missiles flying through space all the time.
What about those like remember we were talking about the asteroid, like the asteroid size, like the killer, the city killer, the city sized asteroids, or city killer asteroids. Holy shit. How the fuck could I not say that? You know what I'm talking about? Oh shit, Kitty. Kitty's back.
Oh, you
What do
can't
you,
see her at all. It's pitch black in here.
Kitty, what is your opinion on the
Wait,
city killer sized asteroids? What is your opinion, Kitty? Tell me.
do you see her?
Yeah, yeah, of course.
Oh, she went. She moved.
She doesn't agree with the city sized asteroids.
I don't. Yeah, like I don't know. I
The
don't
the,
know,
the
man.
city sized asteroid killers. The man, how could I not say this statement? I still
Do
can't
you
even
think
say it.
that you know how we're like our you know how humanity like some people believe and I kind of believe that there's these great resets and that humanity has lived and had great civilizations many times and that we've
Yeah,
been around for a lot longer than we give ourselves credit for.
yeah,
I think that wait, hold on. Give me a second.
yeah.
I hate when this happens.
You're good.
Do you think that's what Samsara is?
The cycle? No, I mean
Yeah,
I
like it's
always
less about our personal soul or less about maybe it is our souls, but it's less about like us personally becoming enlightened. It's more about
us as an entire race.
yeah, the story of all humans. Like this truly is like what is going on. And that we're like gonna keep going over and over and over again until we finally break free. And like I think like what if you look at the story of or like the what they're telling you about that about samsara and things like that in the actual religions and just say like, well, is that how we break out of this like how can that translate into surviving through another cataclysm?
You know, it's funny that you mentioned this because I feel like you remember that guy that I showed you the book of, Manly P. Hall, The Secret Teachings of All Ages.
Mm-hmm.
He had an entire section. After we stopped doing the summarizing books thing, I had an idea to like ask it to like summarize a few other books, and that was one of them. And apparently, it had an entire chapter on the idea that the rapture wasn't like the rapture in the Bible wasn't about the end of the world. It was about one person's descent into a spiritual enlightenment. And it's about like the inner collective or the inner souls of all people descending to enlightenment, going through hell and battling demons in order to find enlightenment at the end. And I guess that's what Manly P. Hall kind of said. See, your cat even agrees with me. But that's what Manly P. Hall said, or maybe your cat agrees with Manly P. Hall. But
She just likes the name.
yeah. Or she likes talk of rapture, which is either way, it's kind of interesting.
Interesting.
But that's kind of like the opposite of what you're saying, though. It's on a personal level. But like, what if you're right? What if some of these things that we talk about on a personal level is just representative of the entire like human race? I think that could be the case because we all have stories about like the flood and all that kind of stuff. It's like every culture across like the entire world has a flood story.
Yeah,
That makes you think.
that was one of the big ones for me.
Me
When I
too.
thought that, like, I get people being scared of floods, but
A flood that engulfs the world, though.
I think there's physical evidence of it.
Yeah. Well, yeah, there is. There literally is. And oh, did you ever? Oh, we never talked about Noah's Ark being in Turkey.
I don't know what that is. What you're talking about?
So I when I was a kid, it's funny because this got brought up when I was a kid. This was one of the first conspiracies that I remember ever reading about. This was when I was like 7 or 8. This was like when I first got into like conspiracies, and I was looking into like Area 51 on like my parents' computer or something like that. And I was like looking up like all these different things. I found a conspiracy about how Noah's Ark was in Turkey, in a mountain in Turkey, Mount Uruk, I think is what it's called. It's interesting because if you look on this mountain, there's this gigantic, it's like a structure, it looks like, and it's covered in snow, but it's like you can see it if you go on like Google like Maps or Images or whatever, and or Google Earth or whatever. And it was always crazy to me because I was always like, that looks to me like it could be like Noah's Ark. Like that looks like it could be the real thing. And if Noah's Ark did like hit a mountain and that's where like they stayed until like, the mountain froze over, or they all, descended back to where, to land, that lends credence to the idea that there's been like that one, all these stories in the Bible maybe are true, but maybe true by an interpretation. Maybe that there was a flood, all around the world at the exact same time, and all of these same cultures, or all these different cultures experienced it, but they have different interpretations of who their like leaders or their holy men like took on a journey to get to that point. And who knows, maybe they were helped along by aliens, you know? But
I've been seeing a lot of videos of people pointing at stone and like parts of the earth and saying, "Look at the way it like naturally formed," and that just looks like wood but petrified. And I used to laugh at that, but now I just dream about it. I'm like, please be true. Please let mountain-sized trees be true.
well,
Let giants be true.
think
Please.
about this, the idea that if back in the day you needed to like say back in like the in like prehistoric times, or like keep going real far back. The first trees were probably huge trees, and the reason why is because one, they had to survive like really bad environments, but also they had to produce as much oxygen and take in as much CO2 as they could possibly. So what that would is that would probably breed a tree that would survive in a harsh condition and grow really huge. Like I'm sure like back in the day trees were like really huge. I'm sure before like our modern industrialization too, I think trees were a lot bigger too in general. Like if you go to places like Canada or like, you know, the upper part of like the United States, like they still have like a lot of big trees. And a lot of it is because there's like room to grow, but also it's because, you know, the oxygen is a little bit freer up there. The trees aren't as constricted. They're not as diseased. And I think back in the day, I think before humanity probably even like was touching the trees were huge. They were probably like intense. And look at what the first instinct of like when we found the redwood trees was is we wanted to cut them down and take pictures. And then we're like 20 years later, no, we got to preserve this shit. Are there any other trees in the world like that are that size?
What size?
That are like the size of redwood trees?
Oh no, I have no idea.
On the tree subject, you remember this is one of the first things I wrote in my notes. It was one of the only things I ever wrote in my notes that was non-conspiratorial or paranormal because I thought it was so interesting. But the world's oldest trees, meow. The world's oldest trees were in, I think it was Utah and Nevada, in like the Sonora Desert, like 4,000 and like 3,000 years old, and maybe California too, like a third tree, like 3,000 years old, dude. It's crazy. And one of the trees back in like the 1800s or like late 1800s, early 1900s, right? These group of like settlers came in and cut the tree down, and they just thought it was like a ratty old tree that like was just like dead. And then it turns out when like researchers looked into it, the tree was literally thousands of years old, and that they just happened to cut down like a few thousand-year-old tree. And now like the stump is like preserved and is like a national monument in like the Sonoran Desert. Your cat loves the tree talk. You like trees, kitty?
She's saying I have a big tree in my backyard.
You got a big tree, kitty? Kitty, you got a tree, kitty? Your cat's just like staring now.
She's staring at me.
I know.
She's looking past the phone, just looking at me like.
But yeah, old trees are pretty cool. And I think you're right though. I think like the earth was covered in like these massive trees, and I think they've all just like petrified at this point.
I also keep seeing this possibly AI image, but apparently it's true. Is it Rome or it's not the Vatican, but maybe like or Venice? It's like built on top of just a bunch of logs underwater. But like
That's Venice. Yeah.
But how old is Venice? I want to look at the logs that are at the bottom, or like some like the deepest ones. See how they ended up. See if they just turned to stone.
Yo, that would be crazy. Venice is over 1,200 years old. That's crazy.
Hell yeah.
How old are the logs holding Venice? The wooden logs that form the foundation of Venice are very old, dating back to the 12th century or even earlier. I mean, that's not bad. So, like, maybe roughly about 800 years old. Analysis of elm and beech piles
No,
from
that's
under.
when they were cut. That's when they were cut down.
I know, that's crazy.
Think about how old they were before that.
Wait. Analysis of elm and beech piles from under St. Mark's Campanile have dated them back to the year 97, meaning they are over
Oh my
1,000 years
God.
old. The city itself was founded in 421 AD. That's crazy.
Jesus.
They're older than the city itself. That's nuts.
That is nuts.
Venice is built on millions of short wooden foundation piles up to 5 meters long, driven into the soft seabed of the Venetian lagoon. These piles were used to support buildings as early as the 12th century or even earlier. Why they last? That's what I want to know. The wood used, such as alder and oak, is water resistant, and the anaerobic environment of the lagoon bottom prevents decay. The piles have essentially fossilized in place, becoming as tough as stone. That's fucking cool.
Well,
That's crazy.
think about this, right?
Yeah.
Imagine you ever see like an anime or a cartoon or a comic book where there's a giant world tree?
Yeah. Yggdrasil.
What if they're Yggdrasil? What if they're used to?
Yeah.
Well, Yggdrasil's like straight up magical. I'm not saying it wouldn't be magical, but like, just imagine at its simplest form, just like a giant tree that's the biggest on Earth, and it like has, it's like the the mushroom network, the mycol, all that, like the
Navi.
all everything connecting it like spreads out to like the size of a continent, right?
Yeah.
Maybe bigger. And then at one point that got destroyed somehow, or like lit on fire and it burned, and that was like the end of an era. Like that was one of the cataclysms.
That's kind of like Elden Ring.
That's kind of like Elden Ring. I love Elden Ring, and I didn't even think about Elden Ring at all with that. I just thought about more about like the tree from Avatar.
Well, that's why I said the
Navi.
Navi.
Not that Avatar, the other Avatar.
The Last Airbender.
Yeah.
There's a tree in Avatar: The Last Airbender. Did I miss something? I mean, there's a lot of trees.
It's when they go in the swamp. It's like they meet the swamp benders. There's that giant tree.
The swamp benders. Is that what they're called? Really? I don't remember that at all. I'm gonna have to rewatch.
I believe they're water benders. I think they're water benders.
The swamp.
They're
benders.
water benders who control the water and plants.
Ah, that's cool. That's actually pretty dope. Yeah. You want to talk Philadelphia experiment? I feel like that's new.
It's new?
Well, we've never really talked about it. We've just glossed over it.
What year do you think it is right now?
It's 1943. What are you talking about?
It's 1943.
Get with the program there, guy.
There's a big party happening outside.
Do you want me to do this entire thing in my transatlantic accent?
We should do that for a different episode. We should do that the whole time.
The Philadelphia experiment there, guy.
Just do it like you're freaking out. Like, did you hear about this?
Did you hear about the Philadelphia experiment? Bunch of fellas there got locked into, a bunch of metal and meat all mangled together.
And it's real. It really happened.
It really happened.
You gotta like freak out because it's true. You gotta be like, yeah, this just happened. Why is nobody freaking out?
Extra, extra. Somebody teleported. What's going on? The Navy's not telling us nothing, guy. They're not telling us shit there, guy. You gotta have a lot of moxie to go against the Navy nowadays. Back in my day, the Navy was just a bunch of boats of imperial structure. Now they're destroyers.
Back in my day, the Navy had a little too much moxie. You know what I'm saying?
Yo! That was great. All right. All right. Do you want to talk the Philadelphia experiment?
No, go for it.
The Philadelphia experiment. In 1943, the Navy destroyer USS Eldridge reportedly vanished, teleported from a dock in Pennsylvania to one in Virginia, and then rematerialized, all as part of a top-secret military experiment. Is there any fact to this legend? The genesis of a myth. The story of the Philadelphia experiment began with the scribbled annotations of a crazed genius, Carlos Allende, who in 1956 read The Case for the UFO by science enthusiast Morris K. Jessup. Allende wrote chaotic annotations in his copy of the book claiming, among other things, to know the answers to all the scientific and mathematical questions that Jessup's book raises. Your cat loves the Philadelphia experiment, and Jessup, I get it. Jessup's interests included possible military applications of electromagnetism, anti-gravity, and Einstein's unified field theory. I agree with that, kitty. That's all very interesting. Allende wrote 2 letters to Jessup warning him that the government had already put Einstein's ideas to dangerous use. According to Allende, at some unspecified date in October 1943, he was serving aboard a merchant ship when he witnessed a disturbing naval experiment. The USS Eldridge disappeared, teleported from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania to Norfolk, Virginia, and then reappeared in a matter of minutes. The men on board the ship allegedly phased in and out of visibility or lost their minds and jumped overboard, and a few of them disappeared forever. This strange activity was part of an apparently successful military experiment to render ships invisible. Allende could not provide Jessup with any evidence for those claims, so Jessup stopped the correspondence. But in 1956, Jessup was summoned to Washington, D.C. by the Office of Naval Research, which had received Allende's annotated copy of Jessup's book and wanted to know about Allende's claims and his written comments shortly thereafter. Vero Corporation, a private group that does research for the military, published the annotated book, along with the letters Allende had sent to Jessup. The Navy has consistently denied Allende's claims about teleporting ships, and Vero's impetus for publishing Allende's annotations is unclear. Jessup offed himself in 1959, leading some conspiracy theorists to claim that the government had him killed for knowing too much about the experiments. It is not certain when Allende's story was deemed the Philadelphia experiment, but over time, sensationalist books and movies have touted it as such. The date of the ship's disappearance is usually cited as October 28th, though Allende himself could not verify the date. However, the inspiration behind Allende's claims is not a complete mystery. In 1943, the Navy was indeed conducting experiments, some of which was surely top secret, and sometimes they involved research into the applications of some of Einstein's theories. The Navy had no idea how to make ships invisible, but it did want to make ships undetectable to enemy magnetic torpedoes. Experiments such as these involved wrapping large cables around Navy vessels and pumping them with electricity in order to scramble their magnetic signatures. According to Edward Dungeon, a crew member of the USS Angstrom, invisibility experiments of the questionable kind took place in Philadelphia in August 43 on both the USS Eldridge and the Angstrom. The Dungeon claims that after the ships had vanished and rematerialized, some of the sailors themselves mysteriously disappeared from a local bar. However, further investigation revealed that the missing crew members had merely slipped out of the back door of the bar to avoid punishment for underage drinking, and the Eldridge went to Norfolk that night to pick up ammunition, but was back in Philly by morning. Wow. So yeah, the Philadelphia experiment's pretty wild. They were making like a bullshit excuse there at the end, but I don't know. Let me ask you something. How long do you think the government has had questionable technology? Do you think it started with the Manhattan experiment and then Roswell, or do you think that we've had stuff even before then that was kind of crazy? Because Nikola Tesla was before that, right? Did he die before that?
I think it's right around that time. I think it's as soon as aliens showed up. Because I look back at everything the government's done, and it just doesn't add up that they would have anything all that crazy before then. But as soon as aliens show up,
Crazy
UFO
stuff.
aliens,
Stuff happened.
as soon as it happens, all of a sudden we're like, does the government do this? Can the government do this? How can the government do this? Is
Well,
it possible? Are they really doing this behind our backs?
well,
Do they rule everything?
taking another look at it though, is the United States government was founded by Freemasons, right? And Freemasons, they worship like, Saturn and like all this other shit, the Black Cube and yada yada. Maybe America was founded on the idea that one day the people from beyond, not just like maybe outer space, maybe the rapture, like angels and all that. Maybe that's why the United States has like "In God We Trust" on it. Maybe it's not God. Maybe it's actually like the aliens. Maybe that's why we have the Eye of Providence on it. It's because this all leads to like aliens behind the scenes, like really. And they were waiting for them, the second coming of them. Maybe that's what all this is when people say like the second coming, they're just talking about aliens. I mean, we could just be talking about Jesus, but like a lot of people think that people are gonna have a spiritual awakening and there's gonna be a second coming of like what do they call that? The age of I know there's the age of Aquarius, but like isn't there the age of Pisces? Isn't that supposedly what we're like entering? And it's supposed to be like the end of the world is the age of Pisces, which is kind of crazy.
I have no idea.
Uh
Our government is essentially just an extension of the Freemasons, is it not?
well that's what I'm saying. Like the government was founded upon the Freemasons.
But like, it's not just founded upon it. Like, all those institutions are still intact. Like,
Yeah. Well, no, that's why I'm saying it was founded on it
I
and it
think it's in its
continues.
simplest form. Conspiracy about our government is that it's run by a secret society, like it truly.
Yeah, well,
And that secret society could
yeah.
be worshiping aliens. I don't know, but they sell themselves as being more like just about God and about like they're all just religious men.
Yes,
And
but
also reasonable.
my point is that maybe the founding of America was based on the idea of God. Yes.
But aliens, I know.
Well, no, but listen, so like at a certain point, the United States government started like organizing more in like the late 1800s, early 1900s, and they find out that maybe they're looking at maybe the Freemasons are looking at it from the wrong picture. Maybe what they see is like as gods are actually the aliens. And maybe when the aliens contact the United States government, say like around World War II, when the United States government started to put it together that the religion that they were following was just skewered more towards like being originally a religion where they worshipped like aliens and stuff, and just over the years it just became something else. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And when they were like waiting for like these angels like Michael or like Gabriel, what they were really waiting for, and who knows, maybe they were waiting for these angels in reality, and maybe they still are, but maybe what they were actually waiting for was, you know, these aliens to come back and inform us of like the coming either rapture or end of the world, judgment day, whatever you want to call it. I don't know.
Yeah.
That would be crazy.
It'd be crazy.
I looked it up too. We actually have been in the age of Pisces for the past 2,000 years, but we are actually entering the age of Aquarius, which is like the age of enlightenment.
They've been singing about that shit for a while, huh?
Yeah, this is the dawning of the age of Aquarius.
They wish. We're way
When
closer. You're the dawning of the age of Aquarius. When does it actually kick off? When does it happen?
the exact beginning of the age of Aquarius is a subject of debate among astrologers with no definitive date agreed upon. Some suggest it started on the vernal equinox in March 2021, while others, the Kelly from Vogue India, focus on the conjunction in December 2020. Others, like Astro Diva, point to the Pluto's transit into Aquarius in 2023 and 2024, suggesting a significant step into the Aquarian age. The age of Aquarius is also calculated to begin in the 22nd century, around 2160. It's funny because that's the date that I always heard was like around like the late 2100s. But you're right. Like what if that's what we're going through right now and what we have been going through is like this spiritual like enlightenment is a part of the dawning of the age of Aquarius. And like, you know, maybe they were saying that in like the 60s and shit, but like now that we're getting like, you know, we have technology and then we have the woo woo, and we're starting to throw together the technology and the woo woo, and we're starting to find that like what we were talking about last night, that gray area in life where like things, you know what I mean, they meet in the middle, and you start to get like psychic transceivers, you start to get like natural ways to read people's minds, or technological ways, or like you start being able to like, you know, create gold or all of this other stuff that was like only like alchemical like dreams at one point, but we can like now do it with like science. You know what I mean? Like to use like a to use a slightly dated term, I guess at this point, like we Rick Sanchez this shit. You know what I mean? Like taking the science of it and mixing it with the mystical. I think that we're entering that age, and we're gonna form that. I think we're gonna get there. I think we're gonna, get into the dawning of the Age of Aquarius. Let the sun shine.